Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I am Karen Matzo. I am the Professional Development Director at Demonstrated Success, and we are going to look at quantile measurements today. Our webinar is titled Making the Most of Quantile Measures in the Classroom. And I would like to introduce Heather Jenkins, who will be delivering most of the webinar. She is our Director of Math and Assessment. And you can see Marissa Hooper is also here. Her name is rolling off my tongue because she has only recently changed it, having gotten married. And Marissa is a coach and a math specialist and was previously a middle school math teacher. And Heather's been with us for quite some time. She's also a math specialist, fabulous with all things math and all things data. And she runs our data initiative at the Department of Ed in New Hampshire. And this webinar is part of our Vermont Data Initiative. We were ever so lucky to be able to work with the state of Vermont, the AOE, in delivering a series of professional development learning opportunities for Vermont educators to help them leverage their student data better, to help them make better instructional decisions for students. And this is all part of the Vermont AOE's initiative to support schools in developing and leveraging strong local comprehensive assessment systems. And this is for all Vermont educators. I think in the next slide, we'll see what other opportunities are available to you. And we've already done quite a few. So at the beginning in the summer, we had a kickoff series where teams came and did some exploration and self-assessment and set some data growth goals. And we have run a series of professional learning community in-person sessions in various parts of the state. And we've already had quantile measurement webinars. Lexile webinars that are posted on the Vermont data site that we house. And today we will look at quantile measurements. And then in January and in March and in April in 3 different locations, we'll have a 2-day assessment literacy workshop. And we will have a PLC webinar series that you can see there to follow up our in-person days. And then finally, at the end of the year in August, we hope that all of our teams from last year will come back and assess their progress on their strategic plans for data use. And maybe we'll have some new teams come and create new plans for the upcoming year.
I just want to go back really quickly. Hello, everyone. We have a little link here just to show you where the page is on our website. So these are the upcoming workshops and webinars that Karen was talking about, and then just some resources and the webinar recordings that we have here. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was able to see those. You're going to get a copy of these slides and a couple of other materials coming up in an email tomorrow. So you'll be able to go right directly to that link because it's embedded right in here in the slides.
Thank you, Heather.
This is my cue. I'm going to turn off my video so that your screen gets a little bit bigger. I find from feedback that our pictures take up a little bit of space. So I'm going to stop mine. And everybody will stop theirs. Karen, are you going to keep yours on, or are you going to?
I'm going to stop mine as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is our agenda for this afternoon. We're going to go through a little overview. We're going to talk about the quantile framework. We're going to talk about understanding the skills and concepts, and then tools in the hub. We're going to do a couple of usage scenarios, and then we're going to leave time for question and answers. While we are going through the webinar, if you have any questions about what I'm presenting, please put them in the Q&A and we will try to answer them as we go, or you can save them for the end. But if it's really pertinent to the section that we're talking about and something is confusing, definitely put it in the Q&A and we'll get those answered as we go through. Some goals for today. First one, we want to build your understanding of the quantile framework. Really, being able to use that framework so that you can make sure that you're looking at your students and the skills related to them Everything's directly correlated to mathematical concepts, so it'll be really simple to be able to do that. We'll go through some of those scenarios and some of those portions of the Quantile site, and then we're going to discover tools in the Quantile Hub. Again, they're free for Vermont educators, so we'll talk about how you can use those. We're going to look at some of those tools to help you interpret and communicate your students' progress, and learn how to use the tools as a part of your instructional decision-making process. So first and foremost, this is just some general information about quantiles. It's interesting. I know that you've had the webinar already on Lexile. That's pretty commonly understood by teachers. Lexile levels have been using them for a number of years. Quantile is a little bit new. So it's an interesting concept that is going to really hopefully help us, figure out what we need to teach our students and what concepts and skills they may already have or what they need to be able to improve their instruction. So really what a quantile measure is it's matching students' ability with appropriate resources. It can help us differentiate instruction, monitor growth. It's really also in line with those college and career ready paths and standards. For Vermont, you have your Vermont Agency of Education has partnered with them. So this is all free for you. And the information that we have, you have quite a number of assessments that some of the folks are using that provide quantile ranges for your students or a quantile level. So you'll be able to match those up with this site and figure out the different information and concepts that your students might be ready for or not ready for. So what a quantile measure does is it tells you for a specific concept or skill for mathematics, it tells you how difficult that particular skill might be for a student. So they get a quantile level, and then there's skills and concepts that are associated with that. For Metametrics and the Lexile Quantile Hub, the big thing that they are pushing is the fact that it is a scientific approach for matching students with ability appropriate resources. So there's a lot of information that goes into it. We'll talk a little bit about how a quantile score is figured out coming up in the next few slides. So really what we want to make sure of is as we're looking at this and thinking about quantile levels for students and the skills that are associated, I want to make it clear that this is, obviously our instruction is super complex. We use all sorts of information to be able to figure out best practices and to figure out what is best for our students in their current understanding and what we need to bring them to for the skills for a specific grade level. This graphic just shows you that this is just one piece of pie that we're talking about today, the quantile tools. But they can really help you understand maybe where to start, help you support your students in figuring out other ways to teach specific skills. But it's not meant to be prescriptive. It's not meant to be used and just followed and say, this is it, and this is how I'm going to teach my students. So again, just one piece of pie today. Just an overview of the quantile framework. So quantile measures are broken down. It is a specific number followed by the letter Q for quantile. So quantile ranges are from 0Q to above 1400Q. And that depends on the grade level. So there's different grade level standards on that. And the skills that they're looking at are taught from kindergarten through high school. And so just for a target so that you can see, students' quantile measures should be at about 1,350 Q by high school graduation. What that does is it tells you that that particular student is ready to handle the math needed to be in college and for most careers out there. A little bit later, we're going to look at the tools for the college and career database. It's pretty interesting the way that works and shows you what the target is for students depending on what they want to do in their life. So what does it tell you? So it's the quantile measure is going to tell you basically it's going to give you a score for students' math ability and the skills and concepts that they might be able to be accessing. So it's really helping you figure out where are they, what are they capable of, and where can we, if they're not quite there yet, what do we need to start with to get them there? And then, so the two parts of the measure are for the ability, right? What are they capable of understanding? And then the skills measure describes the difficulty or mathematical demand of that skill. Even though you're getting one skill, it's taking both of those things into consideration. So if we look at these particular students, you can see on this little graphic that students are at different levels. Their grade level, as you can see, just from their pictures is probably different. So we're starting at the lower grade levels and going all the way up. In relation to that, it will also show you for a specific quantile measure what they could be doing within a specific standard. And so I'll show you how to match that up with standards and then what those skills are that they should be able to do and that you could focus on, and what some prerequisite skills or other skills are for them as well. So it's not just a score. It's actually, I don't even think of it as a score. Obviously, students get it when they do assessments, but it's really a measure of where students are at right now. And it's going to really help us predict where they are within the skills that we're teaching right now. So it's a snapshot of their knowledge. It is basically taking those concepts that we're teaching students and shows you what they're prepared to learn. And then it will help us with the understanding the student's readiness to move on to other advanced topics. For quantile measures, your particular state assessment, I don't know if you say VTCAP, I think, is for grades 3 through 8. All of those grade levels are going to get a quantile measure. Grade 9 is coming from what we understand. In addition, you can see some of the popular other assessment programs that also give quantile measures. I know some of you are probably using NEWA or STAR or iReady. So those are all going to be giving you quantile measures as well. There's also specific.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yeah.
I just want to remind everyone that there is an initiative where the Vermont AOE is giving out grant funds to purchase screeners and assessments that do provide these measures. So that's part of the Vermont focus. Thanks, Heather.
Great. And right here, I think the link that I put in here goes through and gives you a little bit of understanding about this. And then if you wanted to go through and look at all the different, programs and assessments that are going, that currently have it, you can see that as well. I have to, for some reason, it doesn't like when I go off to other things. Okay. So here is sort of the quick and dirty of what, how it's going to help you as educators. So we want to be able to tailor our instructional materials to where students currently are. For the most part, we're able to do that. This is, again, just another tool that can help us with other supplemental materials or help us really understand where our students are when it comes to the concepts that they're ready to learn. So we're able to identify the mathematical skills, again, ready to learn. It's going to help us target instruction, right? So it's going to give us leveled and appropriate tasks and materials depending on a specific student or your particular grade. You could do an average of that as well. You're going to be able to use this if you would like to communicate and engage with your students and parents regarding progress, and you can monitor student growth We'll talk a little bit about some of those measures coming up. So this is what Quantile Measures, how it's sort of done. Basically, it's AI, and it goes through as your students are taking an assessment, and it figures out how ready they are for specific concepts and skills. And then it takes that and it puts them into a specific category or a specific quantile measure. It's a single scale and it goes across all grade levels. And it can help you plan instruction in some of those materials to be able to help engage your students and to help move them along and progress them. Just to make sure it's clear of what the quantile measures are not, it is not a label for students, right? We know that, like, the kids aren't just a number, and it is 1 point of data. But it can help us determine some things that students are capable of doing. It is not a specific grade for your students. It shouldn't go in any sort of grade book. It shouldn't go in any sort of score in that. It's not a diagnostic tool. So the tool that's sort of the diagnostic part is the assessment or your particular program that you are using, if it includes the quantile measures. But this particular website is not the diagnostic part of it. It is not a full picture, obviously, of a student and how they're performing mathematically. And again, it's not a prescription for teaching mathematics. So I want to go into a little bit about the skills and concepts to make sure you understand a little bit more about that. The quantile skills and concepts, or what they're called as QSCs. So as we go on to the site, you'll see that particular acronym. What they are is there's over 500 of them in here that are defined. They have a lot of supplemental information that goes along with them. These skills and concepts are correlated with Common Core standards. So you can put in a specific standard and you will see all the QSCs that are related to that. And then the QSCs are also able to measure the relative difficulty it would be for a student at a particular quantile level. And obviously, as the skill increases, the quantile measure increases, right? As it gets harder, the quantile measure goes up. And then the QSCs can show you how difficult a concept may be for a student, or how easy it might be, depending on what their particular quantile measure is. And this is just an example of a math skill and how the different skills moving up through the difficulty changes the particular quantile measure score and what students are doing with that. So it's just kind of a progression here. That's an example. All right. So there are what are called quantile knowledge clusters. So these are going to include the QSCs. So each knowledge cluster is going to have a specific focus QSC, and then it's going to have supporting, prerequisite, and impeding QSCs. So all of these are going to help guide you to figure out what might be best for a student to be able to be doing with a particular standard that you have chosen. So a focus QSC is basically that's what's being learned right now. The prerequisite QSCs are what they need to know before the focus QSC. So if they're not quite ready there, you can look at what the prerequisite QSCs are. The impending QSCs are those skills that students, once they've learned that focus QSC, they can move on, and it's directly aligned with what they would do next with that particular skill. And then the supporting QSCs that will be listed are skills that basically they enrich lessons. So it will really help kids make connections across the strands, and it will also integrate different mathematical concepts that relate to one another. So this is what it will look like on the site. So I know it's kind of small. I'm going to go live into the site, so hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit better, but I wanted to give a graphic here about what we're looking at. So I might look at something, and this might be what I'm teaching. Maybe I'm trying to figure out and teach students to find really the relationship between addition or multiplication and division, and the specific standards about multiplying numbers. If I am looking at this particular standard, now it's telling me what my prerequisite QSCs are, what my focus QSCs are, the supporting QSCs, and the impending QSCs. What I also want to point out here is in the middle of this, for this particular standard, this is the assumption of where the quantile measures are for a student that is going to be learning this skill. So I'll talk about how you can change this if your students aren't actually in this particular range. But if they were in this range, what I also want to show you here is there's color coding here. So what's being shown here is anything in yellow is below that quantile range that I just showed you right above it on that line. Anything that's within that quantile range or appropriate for that quantile range is green, and then anything that's above it is blue. So you will most often see the yellow here, mostly greenish here, and the blue over here. If I wanted to look at a particular QSC or a particular skill, then what I would do is I would click on it, and then it would open up a page like this. And so now I can still see those prerequisite, supporting, and impending skills. And I'll go through live and show you there's some resources associated with it, and we can kind of navigate through this area. So as we choose a specific skill, we can hone in on that and find some resources that are available. So the effectiveness of the knowledge clusters, what it does is it allows educators to scaffold instruction. It can help you identify gaps in students' mathematical backgrounds. So you could see if a student is below that quantile level, some of those prerequisite skills that might be necessary to bring that student up to the level of what you're teaching. And it helps you enrich your instruction for students who may have already gotten it. Where can we bring them next to give them a little bit of a push for what might be coming next in their mathematical learning? This is just an example, another graphic of the specific quantile levels and what those specific skills might be depending on what you are specifically teaching. Okay, just a little bit about growth. I'm going to go into growth when we go live, but there is a growth measure here, and it will track a student's progress and how prepared they are really all the way up through their senior year. So the growth planner can forecast growth. It can determine whether they're on track for the college and career ready skills that they'll need, and shows how students compare to others across the nation. So here's an example of the growth chart, and you can see with a specific student's quantile measure what their estimated growth is and what the recommended path is, and where they should be to be college and career ready. The quantile measures are also by grade level. There's a little interactive piece that you can do, but you can download the specific grids to tell you where students should be within your particular grade level. Oops, sorry. We're going to go with tools in the hub. Sorry, I'm like skipping all over the place. I see that there's a couple of things in the chat. I'm assuming that those can wait, or if I need to answer anything, then just let me know, Karen or Marissa.
You're okay, Heather. It was just
Perfect.
messages sent. Yep, there was hellos.
Okie doke. So the greatest growth happens when students practice within their quantile range of 50Q above or 50Q below their current quantile measure. So you want to stay pretty close to that. basically gaining an understanding of what instruction might be needed to understand specific skills or concepts is something that we're going to look at. We're going to look at what we can do to scaffold. We're going to look at what we can do to target instruction. And we're going to look at what we can do to promote growth and monitor progress. The big thing that I want to, again, talk about is, again, this is one measure. I really find this when looking at math and looking at skills and where students are, I really find this some of these quantile tools helpful in having me understand and helping teachers understand where students are and where they need to go. So I'm going to go live into here. Okay, so this is the Lexile Quantile Hub. I've already logged in. If you haven't logged in, I'm actually going to log out really quickly so that you can see. If you haven't logged in and you need to register, you'll just click on register here. You'll put in your email address, that's your work email address, a password, you'll confirm it. You're going to select the United States, and then you're going to select Vermont here, and then you're going to choose educator. Once you create the account, again, it's free, so you can just log in. So I'm going to log in now. All right, so up at the top, you'll see all of the Lexile tools and those K-2 tools for them. Down on the bottom here are where all of our quantile tools are. So I'm just going to go through these one by one and give you just a general understanding of what you can do within each one, and definitely ask questions if you have any as I go through. This teacher assistant is, I mean, like, it's got the orange star or the yellow star here. This is one of the most used portions of this particular tool, in my opinion. This is the one I use the most. So as I go in here, what happens is I'm able to choose my state. I wish it remembered, since I have Vermont over here, I wish it defaulted to Vermont here, but it doesn't. So you have to choose Vermont here. You choose the grade level in which you are teaching, or what you're looking to understand a little bit more about. I'm going to kind of go in the middle, and I'm going to say 6th grade. And then what will happen is the drop down here is every 6th grade Common Core standard that that you might teach within 6th grade. So depending on the focus of your instruction, you could choose a specific standard here. So let's go into this one here. I'm going to use ratio and rate reasoning and real world problems. All I do here is search. And what happens is I now come up with that first screen that we were talking about when I was talking about the prerequisite, focus, supporting, and impending skills. So up at the top here, I have my particular standard. I can actually just kind of do this. And now I just see what that standard is. Here you can see what the quantile range is that is the default for that particular standard. So this is the assumption of where students are, and they're ready to focus on this particular skill right here. Now, if my class is not quite at this particular level, right, then this is way below. So this is like, it says I'm at a 670 to a 915. So if I know my class isn't quite there yet, I can move this. And what will happen, let's say I'm here, what should happen is things will start to appear or change color. So the more I go down here, now we're starting to get things that were yellow before are now green, right? Because that's what I'm ready for here. If I continue to move everybody down, this is what ends up happening, right? They stay where they are, but they change color. So I'm actually just going to research here, and it's going to keep that there. All right. I can't remember what I was at before, but it doesn't even matter. So I can kind of keep this here. And so now once I'm in here, this is all well and good. This gives me kind of a snapshot of kids who aren't getting it. This might be what they need. The kids that are getting it, here's the focus or supporting in my in pending. Now, if I wanted to go in here and say, this is the actual skill that I'm teaching right now, I want to click right on this. And then now this is going to give me my prerequisite skills, supporting skills, and impending skills. For this particular focus skill, I have 5 resources here that I am able to choose from. Some have 5, some have 13, some have 7. It varies depending on the specific skill. So these are the skills that are on my my particular focus standard, but then there's also, if I have the related QSCs, I could click on any of these, and then it would pull up resources for that. So as soon as I click on any QSC, it brings up this screen and I can see the resources. If I like a specific resource, or I can just choose it, this one just happens to be an illustrative math. Illustrative math is an open program, so you'll see quite a few of these. And there's a task that I can do and just some general information on this. And if I wanted to use this resource, I could print it, download it, do whatever it is, depending on the type of resource. And if I end up really liking this resource, I can add it here. And now what's happened is it's become part of my resource center. So when I'm searching through my resource center, I can see all of the resources that I might have. And right now, that's now saved to my resource center. If I ended up not wanting it there, I could delete it from there and remove it. But it's kind of a cool way to be able to say, this is what I'm teaching right now. These are some of the resources that I have really found and that I've liked, and you can add them to your resource center. As I'm back to here, you can see any of the standards that are also associated with the standard that I chose in the beginning and that particular skill. Right. Whenever I click on a specific QSC, it opens a new tab, just a heads up on that. So again, if I open this one, I might see this, and now I can see the resources that are associated with that particular skill. Close it up, and then I'm back here. Again, I can change any of these up at the top. If I decided I wanted to look at a different standard, I could search for that. And then I'm getting the same information from there, and I can take a peek at the quantile levels that it's assuming my students have and go from there. I really like this because so often in our classrooms, we are trying to teach specific concepts and skills, and our students aren't getting it. Or we might have students that are coming in a little bit lower and they need that additional support. Maybe you have a co-teaching model in your classroom and you do a model lesson for a specific concept, and those students then might get pulled aside and do some of these prerequisite skills to be able to get them in line for continuing on with whatever concept you're trying to teach. All right, so that's pretty much the teacher assistant. The next thing I want to move on to, I'll just move right across the top here. These are those grade level charts that I was talking about with you being able to see a specific quantile measure for your grade level. This is dependent on the time of year. So right now, this is the end of year or spring. If I wanted to see more than the end of year or spring, or if I just wanted to see beginning of the year, I can choose whichever ones I want. If I didn't want end of the year because I don't, it's not there yet, I could take that off. I like seeing the whole thing. And I can choose if I wanted to, if I didn't want to print or see every grade level, I could check just a specific grade level. And then what you can do with this as well is I could take a look at this. I've got the 50th percentile and the 90th, but let's say I also wanted to see the 25th, right? So I could print out here any of these. So I can go 50th, I can go 75th, I can go 25th. So it's 10, 25, 50, 75, and 90th. So I can print any of these out by downloading the PDF, and it will download exactly what's on my screen. So if I wanted to just, let's say I wanted the 50th and 90th, and maybe I want more than one grade level, I could choose more than one grade level, right? I can choose any grade levels that I would like. Maybe I just want the K-5, or maybe I just want middle school, whatever it is. And then I can download the PDF. It downloads right to my computer, and then I can print it and I can have it sort of in my hands and in an easy place to find. All right. So that is the grade level charts. The next one here is the math at home. Math at home is, it says just that. It's intended to be something that you can incorporate your students into using and parents into using. But I also find this pretty helpful as an educator, because it's going to give me a little bit of a understanding of what skills might be easy or just right, depending on what I'm teaching in the class. So again, I wish it remembered Vermont, but it doesn't. I select my grade level. We'll go with grade 7. And then what happens here is I am able to figure out and type in a keyword to be able to say what I'm teaching. So maybe for grade 7, I'm teaching linear functions. Okay. I can put in a specific student quantile measure. So maybe it's going to be 915. Again, it's going to go 50 below and 50 above, and then I can search. So right now, these are all of the materials that go along with a specific student quantile measure of 915. If I wanted to see things that were just right, I can click just right. Or if I wanted to just see things that were easy for this particular 915, then I could change that. And then it will give me all of the different resources. You can add the resources again to your resource center. You can have your students add it to their own resource center, parents, what have you. So again, this is just another way to find activities. You can filter it. So I can say, I just want to see videos. Maybe I want to put a video up on my Google Classroom or on my Canvas site. Maybe I want to see what a lesson plan would be, because I really want to do a whole group lesson. Or maybe I just want to see something that's a worksheet or a specific online activity. So you can sort by the particular type of material that you're looking at, or what tools you want to be able to use. Again, you just click on it. It gives you that particular, this just happens to be a video. If I like it, I can save it to my resources. I can clear all my selections and start over. So that is the math at home. Over here, the next thing that we can look at is the math skills database. This is very similar to a portion of the teacher assistant. So for this, again, I'm just going to choose Vermont. I'm typing in a VER and it brings me right down to the bottom. That's how I get there quickly. So that's just a little tip. I can again choose my grade level. Maybe I'll choose 4th grade this time. I can go all the way up though too if I wanted to go to algebra. And then you can choose specific goals for your algebra. So if I were to choose this, then it's basically giving me some of those QSCs that I could be looking at. So maybe I'm trying to translate between models and verbal phrases of algebraic expressions. So I can click here, and here I am back to that math skills that we had when we were in the teacher assistant. And then I can see all my materials, anything that might help me be able to give, any sort of extended activities for students or something different than maybe what I've been using. And then again, these are all the standards that are associated with this particular QSC. For this next part, this growth planner, this will allow you to put in a specific student's quantile measure and the date that it was given to you, and we'll be able to figure out what the path is for that particular student. So if I had a quantile measure, let's say of 9/15, my test month maybe was, let's say it was November. I'm in 6th grade, and this is when my year starts. I could add another measure. It's interesting. So you can add as many. So if you have more than one measure because you did a couple of different assessments, they could both go on here. But all the information that's going to be on here, I'm going to click here. So I'm submitting it. And so this is where my student is. You can see what their growth path is here, and then you can see the different percentiles. If I wanted to edit the measure, maybe I want to do all of these and put these in. Let's just see. Now I can see the different indicators for what I might be for being able to see if they're in the advanced range, if they're in the fundamental range or the limited range. And it just kind of tells me where all of this is for. So for a student right now, they should be projected to be in the advanced college and career readiness range. Here they are. And if they continue on this particular path, they're in about the 75th percentile, high 75th percentile there. The information here on add or edit career, I want to go into the next section and I'll show you a little bit about that. And then I can show you how it relates to this one here. So if I go into the Quantile career database, this is where I could select what a student may want to go into. So this is really kind of interesting for any students at any grade level, really, but just to kind of be curious about, like, if this is what I want to do when I'm out of school, what skills do I need to be able to know to be able to get there? This is something I find sometimes, specifically when the math skills get harder, like as I go through middle school and talk with middle school teachers for math or high school teachers for math, so much of what they're doing seems completely, sort of obsolete to students. And the only reason why they feel like they're learning it is because it's a required class in high school, or they have to learn it because they're in 8th grade math. And so this can be a way to get students to understand, like, this is why we're learning this. These different careers require these skills, and it can help them kind of fit some of those pieces of the puzzle in for them. If whatever you're telling them in your classrooms and isn't really resonating with them for the connections that you're trying to make, this can help. So if somebody wanted to go into, let's say, information technology, right? And this gives us all the different sort of things for information technology that people might want to be able to do. So maybe they're going to be a data warehouse specialist. I can search here, and what this is going to do is this tells me what my required quantile level will be to be able to do that particular career, and how it could make me ready to be able to go into college. And, once I'm out of college, what I need to be. This is very interesting as well. So it's giving me my quantile level, but also this is pretty cool here. So this tells you what the median pay would be for that particular job, what the projected growth is for that job, and how many job openings there were within this particular, these particular years. So how many jobs are going to be available, right? So for here, though, right now, it looks like it's on, I'm terrible with states. I should know it's probably Virginia or something. So I'm going to go to Vermont. I'm horrible. Okay. I actually have to do this because I'm not even, forget it. It doesn't matter. So this is Vermont that I'm choosing. And so now this is telling me, this tells you I'm a math person, not a geography person. And so now this tells you in relation to Vermont, exactly what this might be. So it gives you a little bit of information about what they do, and what sort of key tasks and technical skills that they would need to have that particular job. So it's pretty cool. So if I wanted to do, so when I was back on this here, it says add or edit career. So maybe this particular student I'm talking with does want to go into the, what did I pick? I think I picked information technology, and the career was anyway, it doesn't matter. I can submit, and this can tell us what the readiness might be for that career. So these are the quantile measures for the different careers that they might want to go into. So especially for students that are really interested in math or even uninterested in math, this is what you want to do. This is what you need to be able to do, and what skills you might be able to have. And then you could go in and show them what that would mean to be in that particular area. This tells us, brings us right to that information about the jobs in technology, but you could also start showing them that path of getting up to those particular levels and what that means for them for knowledge and skill base. The last one here is the Quantile Measures Manager. So this is something that I have seen a bit with some of the different assessment companies, is you may get a quantile measure from one assessment that is really pretty different from another assessment. And it's kind of hard to figure out how to correlate that and put that all together. Do you choose one? Do you average them? What do you do? So this can help with that. So if you have a couple of different measures or a couple of assessments that give you a quantile measure, and those assessments are done within a 30-day period of one another, which sometimes can be a challenge because we like to spread them out. But I can select Vermont here, and I could select my grade. So I'll choose 5th grade. And I'm just going to click next. And so I'm going to choose what the first test is. And I'm going to say maybe they did Ames Web. Okay. And I'm going to say their quantile measure is going to be a 650. My first test date, let's say, was November 21st. And then my next test that they did was maybe, we'll say they did the NIWA. And the quantile measure here was something that was much different. Maybe it was 500. I select my test date. Maybe I did that this past Monday, and then I can analyze this. So what this does is this tells me the estimated quantile range is about a 585. They take the 2 assessments that I just did, that my student just did, and it basically does an algorithm in the sort of back end, and this tells me what my student's quantile level is. So this can be helpful if you're finding that students are getting drastically different quantile measures and you're not really sure where to go with them. Okay, any questions about any of these tools that we have? I'm going to have you put those in the chat or the Q&A I'm going to go back to the slides here, and I want to just go through, definitely ask your questions if you feel like I didn't cover something that you were hoping that I would cover. But the next thing is I want to go through a couple of different usage scenarios for this. So as math teachers, this first usage scenario would be, I'm a third grade teacher. I have 60 students at our grade level, right? We have a math intervention block 3 days a week, and we want to focus on the understanding the relationship between multiplication and division. So that's what we're working on, and our students, we really know that they need a little bit of additional help with this. And so what my current quantile measures are pretty broad range for my students. We've just done an assessment, or it's been pretty recent that we have, and I want to figure out different activities for the 4 groups. So some of the things that I might use is that teacher assistant. So I might use the teacher assistant, and I would enter the quantile range for my students, and it will allow me to figure out what those prerequisite and focus skills are for each group. And then I might choose a specific focus skill, and it will be dependent on what those groups challenges or strengths are. And that way I could use maybe some of these activity to help foster learning within those groups. Again, this is one particular resource that you could use, but there's a lot of different things in here that might be helpful for you. And then I could add anything that's applicable to my resource center. One thing that I didn't show you in the resource center is you can create different folders. So you could create folders dependent on which particular standard that you are trying to teach. So you can organize it a little bit in there as well. Another scenario is maybe I teach algebra. So now we're at the other end of the spectrum, and I'm teaching about linear equalities. Right? My formative assessments and classroom observations, I see that the majority of my students are not understanding the material. So I'm looking just for other ways to be able to help them understand the concepts, right? Rather than reteach it the exact same way that I have been and just try to explain it again with a different set of numbers or different examples. Maybe what I'm going to do is I would go into the math skills database, and I would search for a specific standard, and I would look at the QSCs associated with it. I could drill down to those prerequisite QSCs to help me understand where they might be missing information and how I might be able to use that. And again, I could review the different resources to help reteach the concepts in different ways. Another scenario might be that I'm working through my teaching cycles, my year's going on, I'm conferencing with students, and I'm curious about their projected growth targets and how I can help my students be more involved in setting their goals. This is where I might use the quantile grade level chart to help set goals for students, anticipated growth, right? I want to know where they're supposed to be within my particular grade level. And then I also want to take a look at that growth planner in the career database and be able to get a sense of the math skills that have to do with what they're hoping to do in college and beyond. And then I would help them be able to set goals for themselves as well, to be able to figure out which skills we want to make sure that we're understanding, and how to make sure that students are also involved in understanding what their role is in making sure that they're getting those skills that they need to be able to move forward. Last thing is I'm looking to supplement some of my lessons with additional resources and really foster that home to school connection with parents. In addition, I'm really trying to do my best to communicate progress with parents. So I might use the Math at Home resource and find those additional materials to incorporate into my lessons or student practice. I could send home each student's most recent quantile measure along with information about what we're teaching in our class to help parents encourage and support their students through the Math at Home tool. And I could just continue to keep parents up to date with their students' most recent quantile measures and give them a little bit of information from that quantile portion of the Lexile Quantile Hub. Closing and Q&A. Again, any questions that you have, go ahead and put them in. Really what we want to make sure that we are doing, the whole point of any of this is to intentionally plan our instruction, right? We want to build confident mathematicians. So some of these things might be helpful in building confidence for students. We're always looking to improve student outcomes, and it's for all students, not just our low students, right? We also, I feel like a lot of times we're focusing on those focus skills for a particular standard. That's sort of the middle, right? And we've been teaching to the middle a lot. And so what we need to do is we need to know, like, we have our middle is kind of moving lower and lower in a lot of instances. So we really just want to make sure that we're teaching to both ends of the abilities in our classrooms. And so this can help us figure out how to incorporate all of those particular skills into our lessons. And it's really just helping us figure out our lessons and using our instructional time the best that we can. All right.
Hi, gang. It's Karen again. And I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that in order to get information around this initiative and all the in-person and virtual opportunities, you can sign up for any of the listservs that are there on that slide, and you will get much information about everything that is going on. So there's some options for you. And again, you'll get these slides in an email if you've registered. And then Pat Fitzsimmons sends out her weekly field memo. So there's another option for access information. And there is our contact information. So I'm actually going to come back to close. So just don't hesitate to reach out. And I do want to say, if you're still here, that we also, as part of this initiative, we can come to your school and do school site data work. And we have already been to a couple schools. I have a half a dozen schools that I'm going to in the next couple months. So people are really starting to take advantage of that, and we can tailor that support to you. And just reach out to me at karenmatzo@demonstratedsuccess.com, and we can talk about it and arrange something. So hope to see you and talk to you.
Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate it. Definitely reach out if you have any questions.